This is a video that's going to help you understand and use the Pythagorean theorem. Now, many of you may have heard the phrase a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, or may even know that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared is called the Pythagorean theorem. But what does the Pythagorean theorem really mean, and how does it work? On a right triangle, the two sides that make up the right angle are called the legs. We usually associate these sides with the letters a and b. As you can see from this picture, here are the two sides that make up the right angle, and I've labeled them A and B. The side opposite the right angle, or the longest side, is called the hypotenuse. We usually give this side the letter C. Here is the hypotenuse. It is opposite the right angle, and it's the long side in a right triangle. Now what the Pythagorean theorem says is if I take the length of A and square that length, and I take the length of B and square that length, and I add those two squares up together, their sum is going to be equal to the length of C squared. Here's a picture to help you understand what that means a little bit more fully. Here's A, and A is 3 units long. 3 times 3 is 9, and you can see that 3 squared is going to give you an area of 9. This length is 4. If I take 4 squared, I get 16. And you can see that the area of the square off of that side has an area of 16. The last side is C. And C is called the hypotenuse, and if you look at it closely, you can see that it's 5 units long. Now the area of the square off of that side is going to be 25 units long. This picture basically shows you what the Pythagorean theorem really means. Let's see what it looks like when I try and solve a different problem. Here's a triangle that you might have in one of your problems. And I have my two legs, or the sides that make up the right angle, are 5 inches and 12 inches. Now how do I solve this to find the length of the hypotenuse, or C? The first thing I do is I always write down my formula. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. After I do that, I like to substitute my values a and b into the equation. When I do that, I get 5 squared plus 12 squared is equal to c squared. The next step is to simplify this by squaring 5 and 12. Well, 5 squared is just going to be 25, and 12 squared is going to be 144. And c squared I'm not doing anything with yet, so that's just going to be c squared. Now I can add 25 and 144, and if I do that, I get 169, and that's going to be equal to c squared. The last step is to take the square root of both sides. And when I do that, the square root of 169 is 13. And the square root of c squared is just going to be c, because squaring something and taking the square root of the same thing are inverses of each other, and they just basically undo that. So the answer is C is equal to 13.